After working in the corporate world for around 2-3 years, that's when I was like, I don't feel like this is my purpose. I don't feel like this is what I was meant to do. I feel like I had that experience because I wanted to share what I'd learned to help people. I've learned all these amazing techniques like meditation and mindfulness, and I've learned so many disciplines, and I've learned so much incredible wisdom from this experience. The biggest challenge, I'd say, is allowing yourself to change, allowing yourself to say, I want to be more.
Yeah.
And it's okay to want to transform and change and grow. I don't have to stay stuck. I don't have to stay the same if I don't want to. And I think that's the greatest challenge that you go through, is allowing yourself, giving yourself the permission to be more of who you are.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and I make these videos because I need them. Because I don't always wake up and feel motivated to go take on the day. And the thing that saves me, that helps me every day, is being around people who are thinking bigger, who are changing the world, and it gives me a little more inspiration to go after my mission. And so I hope this video helps you go up to yours today too. So today's one from one of the best, Jay Shetty, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is build a positive morning routine.
What's your rituals, your morning routine? How does that pan out for you?
So I love waking up in LA because I love the blue skies, and I can usually see the blue skies. I can usually see the sun. I can usually hear some birds outside. It's pretty beautiful and spectacular. And then my morning routine, about 5 out of 7 days a week, is I wake up at about 6 a.m. every day. And then I'll be meditating from about 6:15 till about 8:15. That's usually my schedule of 2 hours of meditation.
2 hours?
Yeah, every single morning. So I've been doing my 1.5 hour to 2 hour meditation practice for the last 15 years. So it varies. Sometimes it can be 1.5 hours, sometimes it's 2. And that takes me through to about 8:15, which is when I go to the gym. And then I'll be in the gym or exercising or on a hike or something activity based for about 45 minutes. And then I begin my work day with breakfast, and then everything continues from there. So my real core parts of my morning routine are my meditation, which includes things like setting my intention for the day, getting myself primed and ready. And then I really enjoy working out now in the morning, which never used to be what I was into. But it's been a game changer to actually start the day feeling energized.
Rule number 3 is practice stillness.
I think it's so valuable to have that that space, you know. It's just, even if it feels comparatively like nothingness, but I do think there are things happening that we might not be able to express or identify that kind of prepare us for that next wave of creativity.
Yeah. And I also feel like, for me, it's my meditation in the morning. I feel like that stillness, you need stillness in your day. So there's a beautiful Buddhist statement that says, what movement does for the body, stillness does for the mind. So we all know we need to exercise and move our bodies to feel healthy and fit. And so when you need to move your body, you need to still your mind. And so finding 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, an hour a day, whatever it is for you, like getting space and stillness will always feel like you're a sponge for creativity, because you're allowing your body and your mind to be aligned and talk to you. And I know that sounds strange, but it's kind of like, let's say both of you work as a team. You're a great partnership. But let's say, Lindsay, you're like running around and you're unreachable and you never turn up to meetings. And now, how are you going to feel?
Pissed.
Yeah. and you're going to feel like, slow down so I can talk to you.
Yeah.
Your body and mind feel that every day. Like they're just waiting for you to slow down so that they can give you an idea, so that they can get back in sync, so they can give you a signal.
Rule number 4 is stop comparing yourself to others.
People don't understand how much negative emotions can actually affect your day-to-day life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's 3 things that I talk about, which I learned during my time in the monastery. It's in my first book, Think Like a Monk. Our teachers would call it the cancers of the mind. And so they said complaining, comparing, and criticizing were the cancers of the mind. When we complain reoccurringly, we lose control of the situation. When you're complaining, you're basically saying, I can't influence this. So when you lose influence, you lose your ability to transform your life. When you compare, you're setting yourself up for failure, because here's the thing. If you feel ahead of other people, you'll always feel behind other people in both ways.
Right.
So like, if you're like, I'm now feeling ahead of the pack, that means one day you'll feel behind. If you're saying now I'm number one day you'll feel like number two. And so when we place these comparisons, we think when we're at the top, it will feel amazing. It won't, because if you lived your life on comparison, even if you're at the top, you're now insecure and unsettled, because you're like, what if I lose this spot? And so comparing, and then criticizing is probably the most obvious one out of all of them. Like, I remember when we were kids, we would watch people on TV, me and my friends, and we'd laugh at like, how's that person on TV? They're not even talented. Like, who are they? Who do they think they are? But then what were we doing? We were just sitting on our couches. So I remember being that kid where we were just so critical of other people. And as time's gone on, I've realized that, but that person tried. They put themselves out there. Yes, they maybe made mistakes. Yeah, they're probably not perfect, but at least they put themselves out there. Whereas I'm just sitting on the couch, criticizing. And so removing complaining, comparing, and criticizing. Now, that doesn't mean you can't open up to your friends. It doesn't mean you can't share how you feel.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying you can't do any of that stuff, but I'm just saying being mindful of that can help.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Rule number 5 is focus on your inner life.
There's so much of our identity wrapped up in the stuff we have, the things we have around us, how we want people to perceive us. And again, part of monk life is stripping that away to just, I guess, am I correct in saying it's just to be you as a human without all of that stuff? What is the essence of that lacking?
Yeah, it's that the more we're focused on our outward life, the less we have the ability to focus on our inward life.
Yeah.
And so in the sense of, if I'm always thinking about how I look and how people think I look and how they perceive me, then I don't get a chance to form how I feel about myself. And that's really the key. It's not about having or not having. It's about, are you doing the things because they make you feel good about yourself? Or are you doing it for the validation and approval of others? So a quote that I start the book with is a quote from Charles Cooley. And it's my favorite quote probably of all time. And he says, the problem today is, I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. So let that blow your mind for a moment. I'll explain it. Yeah, literally.
I know.
Yeah. But what he's saying is that, and I'll make it simple. So what he's saying is, if I think Fern thinks that I'm smart, I feel smart. And if I think that Fern thinks I'm not smart, then I don't feel smart.
Yes, so we do this every day.
Every day.
Crazy.
So we're living our life in a perception of ourselves, of me thinking I know what Fern thinks about me. And that's just a really complicated place to live. If you've ever watched the movie Inception,
yes,
it's like being lost within a thought, within a thought, within a thought.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, it's not about having things or not having things. It's about, are you pursuing things because you really want them? Are you behaving or conducting yourself in a way because that makes you feel happy about who you are? Or is it to accomplish a certain validation or a certain approval from outside? Because the more externally driven we are, so many studies show that extrinsic motivators, i.e. other people's approval, recognition, awards, don't give us happiness. And that's why I talk about the pursuit of success and happiness as 2 different things. Happiness is all about how I feel about myself, and success is about awards, medals, achievements, etc. And success gets you success, and happiness gets you happiness. Happiness does not get you success, and success can't get you happiness. And it's okay to just realize they're 2 separate things.
Rule number 6 is stretch your adaptability.
And also too with the stretching your adaptability, I love that. I think that's so powerful and poignant. And I think, people would hear about, you being a monk and probably be like, oh, I would never do that. But it can happen in such micro moments. Like even if we're taking the person going to work example, it's like going a different way to work, parking in a different spot. Like it doesn't need to be so radical for people. It actually can be very small and fun.
Oh, 1000%. Like I am not in any way. You don't have to live like a monk to think like a monk at all. And this is not
You're
like
book out now.
Yeah, this is not like a monk conversion strategy of like everyone become monks. But yeah, it's the point of why monks do what they do that fascinates me. It's not about what's happening specifically. So for example, we would take this walk around the ashram regularly. And every day we were asked to find a new item on that path. And so one time you walked by, it'd be like, find a new flower. And the next day it'd be like, find another flower. And then now your mind starts planning for the future. So you start planning for tomorrow's flower. And then next day you go and like, today look for a stone. And you're like, oh God, like I lost, like I messed up. And and the point of it wasn't, you may say, well, Jay, where do I do that? It's like, you could do that in your home. You could do that on your way to work. You could do that in your partner. You could notice something new about them. I wonder how many people are asked, like, what's your partner's hair color or eye color, and wouldn't know the exact, And so there's so much newness that you can discover, and we're always looking for stability and sameness. And the crazy thing is that everything's always changing. So looking for newness in the simple things in life or changing parts of your routine simply, we don't realize how much the simple changes in a day can completely transform it until you start doing it. And so it could be, hey, you know what? Every day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to listen to this song when I wake up. Let me see how I feel. Okay, that song didn't work. Let me try another one. But right now I'm just waking up feeling down or sad every day, but I haven't really experimented with a different way of waking up. And so you're spot on. I don't think it's about doing anything radical or extreme, but it is about constantly opening yourself up to really experience something. One of my favorite ones is going on a walk and finding an item that appeals to you or sticks out to you and to really explore it. And I did this with someone I was working with the other day. And the first thing he did was pick up this big rock. And then the next thing he did was pick up this kind of like...
Such a guy thing.
It was like, one of those moments.
I'm going to pick up the big rock.
Yeah. And then the next thing is picking up this sort of like flower or, and when you just look at it and you like observe it and you explore it, it's not about you getting intimate with a random flower. Like that's not the point of it. The point of it is to train your mind to explore everything in your life more fully and wholly. And now you're going to apply that to your partner. You're going to apply that to your work. And so that it's just shifting mindset. That's what's happening. It's not the actual act. Sometimes they do it with a raisin.
I love that.
A lot of meditations.
No two raisins are the same.
I love that you eat raisins. That's amazing.
Sponsored by Sun-Made Raisins. If you've never done that before, it's like a lot of meditation training involves using a raisin and just smelling the raisin, holding it to your ear, playing around with your hands. And it's the weirdest thing in the world. And I've led that exercise a million times where people are like, you are the weirdest, strangest person ever. But the whole point of it is not to love raisins. The point of it is, how many things do we quickly judge in our life? So when you're asked to pick something up off the floor, you may think it's a certain color. But then when you look at it, you're like, oh, actually, I was wrong. You may think it was really hard and strong. And when you pick it up, it's really soft and weak. That's how people are in our lives. Sometimes you meet someone and you think they've got a really hard exterior, but you get to know them and they're the softest person. And so when you start to experience the simple things in life wholly, you start to experience everything in the same way.
Rule number 7 is try things without fear.
What would you say in the course of your career, the best advice you've ever gotten?
I remember sitting with one of my mentors once. He passed away from stage 4 brain cancer around 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. And losing him was tough because he was the first person I'd call when something good happened. And he'd be the person I want to share it with. And I remember years before my external online journey happened, before people were aware of my work, I was sitting with him and I said to him, I have so many ideas and I have so many things I want to do. and I don't know where to start. And I think this is a common thing that I hear a lot of people say to me today, where it's like, I could start a company. I could start this. I want to write a book. I want to do a podcast. I want to do social media, whatever it is. Like, people have so many ideas, but it's like, where do I start?
Right.
And he said to me, Jay, he said, start everything. He said, open every door. And he said, doors will naturally start to close or some won't open. Just keep walking through the ones that stay open. And if I look at the last 5 years of my life, 7 years of my life that I've been doing this online externally, I can honestly say that that's all I've done. I've knocked on every door. Some have opened, some haven't. And some have opened and then later closed. And I've just kept walking through the ones that stay open. And the reason why I think it's the best advice I ever received is we often paralyze ourselves with procrastination of choice, of what do I do? Where do I start? What's the perfect route? What's the perfect path? What's the right thing for me to do? And it's like, you have no idea.
Right.
You can only try everything and see what feels right and see what stays open. But it's not up to you to figure it out in your head what your purpose is. I think a lot of us are trying to figure out our passion, our purpose, our career path, our hobbies, everything in our head. And it's like, you're not going to figure out in your head. You're going to see it unfold in front of you. And so I'd say that was the best advice I ever heard.
Rule number 8 is learn to love yourself.
We believe that someone's love for us is what makes us lovable.
Yes.
So we believe that if someone values us, then we're valuable. If someone likes us, then we're likable. And so all of our self-belief, self-value, and self-esteem is based on someone else's view towards us. So then when that person leaves, we feel broken because they just took what we so deeply needed.
Rule number 9 is serve others.
What have you learned about leadership and how you can reach your audience?
So tough times are always the time when I think we get a chance to find our better and deeper selves. Like, you get an opportunity to really push for that because all of a sudden everything you already knew isn't in demand anymore. And so I've always found that in times of uncertainty, the only certainty I find is in service. Because when there's uncertainty, that means there's the best opportunity to serve. Because if more people are lost, confused, troubled, then therefore there is more to do. And I think that's what I see as leadership, is wanting to be of service to others. And I think there's a beautiful quote by Gandhi where he said, you find yourself when you lose yourself in the service of others. And to me, that's what leadership is that you lose yourself in trying to figure out how to help people in the best way you can. And I think for me during this time, especially in 2020, I was looking at around what all the other people were doing. And I was like, well, I can't sing like John Legend or play the piano. I can't do that, but I can teach meditation or I can teach mindfulness. And so for me, my form of wanting to serve was, well, why don't I offer people their 20, 30 minutes a day at the beginning of the lockdown where they can find their peace, they can find their calm, they can kind of get their stillness and declutter, and then hopefully they'll have the clarity to take whatever steps they're going to have to take, because I can't solve all their problems, but I can help them have the clarity that they'll know what to do next. And so that's why we started we did 20 days of meditation, and my only intention was, I just want people to have one part of their day which isn't bombarded by the news, isn't bombarded by the worry, isn't them on a chat thread that's just full of worry and anxiety.
Or being on a Zoom call.
Or being on a Zoom call, exactly, or whatever. Maybe this is their one time that they're going to find stillness and calmness for themselves. And we did 20 days, and people loved it so much that we did 40 days. And we had 20 million people tune in over 40 days.
Casual.
And the best thing about it was that I would bring on people at the end of them towards the end. So I wish I did this at the start, but I started to realize I really wanted to do it towards the end. So probably for the last 10 days, I would just go live with other people at the end just to ask them about their experience. And I'd say 90% of the people that were there were like, Jay, I've never meditated before, and this is my first time. And I was thinking, that's what service and leadership is you're giving people new opportunities and allowing people to have new experiences. So to me, leadership is not about being at the front or guiding everyone or saying the best thing. It's just finding your way to serve.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is live your purpose.
There are a lot of people out there that might feel, well, lucky for you, you found what you love and what you do. I haven't, got to that place yet. How do people seek it out? It took me to my mid-30s to get there. What would you say is a good way of navigating to that place?
Dharma, loosely translated, comes down to eternal purpose. It's kind of like your inner nature, the inner gift and talent and potential that's always there. And it's your purpose, but it's been covered over by all these other pursuits, that school, the world, whatever else that came in. Now, and I love what Fern said, we're not trying to blame anyone. It's not like, oh, no one ever helped me find it. It's our responsibility if we want to live a purposeful and meaningful life. So I try and break things down into formulas to help people, because I think purpose is a really intangible and difficult word to understand, and it's kind of thrown around a lot, and Dharma is too. So this is the formula. Purpose equals passion plus strength plus compassion, right? It's as simple as that. Purpose equals passion plus strength plus compassion. And I'll explain each one. So passion is what Fern was saying almost was lacking in her work. She had the strengths to be a TV presenter. She was really good at it. She knew what she was doing and she was performing really well. But she maybe lacked passion and maybe lacked compassion around it. Of course, I'm populating this for her. And what's really interesting about that is that sometimes your strengths can actually be really useful, because in one sense, Fern, all you've done is taken those strengths of TV presenting and now taken them across to presenting about stuff you're really passionate about and you think can help people, and you're still using the same strengths. You've just redirected them. And I think this is really important for you to understand, that if you're sitting at home right now and you're doing a job that you hate and you don't like your company and you don't like your boss and you don't like the toxic atmosphere, think about it for a second. You might actually have a strength that is going to be the strength that helps you build or create the next stage in your career or your work or your life, that actually helps you have a meaningful and purposeful journey. So that's one way of looking at strengths. Passion, the way I describe it is purpose is like an adult, passion is like a teenager, interest is like a child, and curiosity is the womb. So the birth of purpose is actually curiosity. Like that's where it starts. And often we're like, oh, but Jay, Fern, I don't know what I'm passionate about. Like I've got nothing I get excited about. And it's like, don't worry about getting excited. Just what are you curious about? What is it that when you hear it, just the tiniest whisper of it gets you going, oh, I want to know more about that. I want to watch a documentary on that. I want to listen to a podcast about that. What is it? And you will have that. So that's passion. And compassion is another way of finding your purpose. It's actually where you see the most pain in the world. So a lot of the most successful companies, successful people in the world started not because they had a passion, but they started because they had some pain. It could have been that a family member passed away from a disease, or it could have been that they lost someone they loved, or it could have been a health issue that they had themselves. And so when you add, if you want to make something a purpose, if you want to make something real in your life, you have to be passionate about it, have strengths in it, and be compassionate towards something to solve a problem. And these are all skills that you can gain. So you may say, Jay, I know what I'm passionate about, but I'm not good at it. Well, go and get training, go and get immersed, go and become the best at it.
I don't feel like we could be stretching all the time.
Agreed.
That you could reach, but you have to recover. You have to replenish. You have to be able to rest. Also as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to add to that, because I know we both like alliteration, but it's like stretch, stabilize, and then forego. Like there's also what's a sacrifice, I guess. Like, but in a positive sense.
Or even surrender.
Surrender, because I found that I definitely am shocked at my capacity with the amount of things I do today that I didn't know were ever possible. So if someone told me 10 years ago, Jay, one day you're going to do this, I would have said, no way, I can just do one thing. And we did exactly what you said. So every year I would stretch myself, every year. And you're right, you can't just stretch every month, but every year I'd add one thing. So like first we started creating videos. And then after we started creating videos, we did the podcast. And then we did the podcast, we did our courses and programming. And then then I wrote my book. And then after that, so we stretched ourselves a little, and I stretched myself a little every year. But then we stabilized. But I've also found that I've also had to let go of some things, sacrifice some things that once upon a time were really important to me, but today they're not as important. Yeah. And in order to stretch and stabilize, I had to learn to sacrifice too. And I think that's something we struggle with. Like, I think one of our biggest limitations is wanting to hold on to stuff. Yeah. Right? Like, it's like there's no space to shift away and hold on to something else if we're holding on to this. If I'm like, no, I want this to be there for the rest of my life. I have a check-in for every day, every month, every quarter, and every year with your partner. There's one question per item. So one check-in every day, one check-in every month, one check-in every quarter, and one check-in every year. Every day, check in with your partner and ask them, what did you do for yourself today? What did you do for yourself today? Beautiful. Just check in with them, because I promise you, they've been trying to do everything for you, the kids, their family, but they didn't do anything for themselves. Check in. What did you do for yourself every day? Every month, check in with them and ask them, what can I help you with? What can I be a part of? What can I support you with? Because over that month, they may be going through so many different things. Now you get a chance. Every quarter, this is one that I do with Radhi every quarter. It's uncomfortable, but it's needed. I ask her this question. Actually, I ask her 3 questions. Is this relationship going in the direction you want? If it is, what's going right? What should we do more of? If it isn't, what are we both willing to do about it? So beautiful. What's that collective responsibility? And then once a year, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve this year? So those 4 check-ins. Yeah, so simple. Every day, every month, every quarter, every year. Yeah. You will always be in touch with the heartbeat of your partner and the pulse of where they're at. When I think about younger generations, if you grew up watching your favorite people and you knew they were all friends, how does that change the game now? Because if you're seeing your favorite people fight each other and battle it out for the crown, what are you going to do with the person sitting right next to you at school? And I think I saw that so much growing up, where I've always wanted to connect with people regardless of what we do in this space. But you saw so many people who are coming at it from the perspective of, let's see who does better. Let's see who does more. And again, I love what you said. Competition's not a bad thing. Let's not give it a bad name. But the idea that we've got to be able to hold 2 truths. We can compete and still be friends. It was all about the addiction to number one. Yes. It's this idea, and you'll love this. There was a study that I saw that said, because you brought up the Olympics, it sparked my brain. There's a study that I saw that said people who win bronze are happier than people who win silver, because the people who came second were this close to first.
Oh my God, yeah.
But the person who came third, they were happy. They were like, we weren't going to get first, but we got in, we got on the podium. And it's that podium syndrome of like, at least we got on. But the person in silver, they are mad at themselves because they didn't get number one. And so that addiction to number one is so strong.
Would you want to live as a monk again? I won't be surprised if the answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would want to. I think I would want to be wherever I can best serve. That's what I've realized.
Okay.
Be where you can best serve, because there was a time in my life where being a monk was the best way I could serve. But now if I was to go back there, maybe that wouldn't be service. Maybe that would be selfishness, because it would be so personally motivated. But actually where I am right now is where I can serve the most from. It's almost like saying, every seed grows into a tree. But if the tree says, I want to be a seed again, but the seed doesn't serve as much as a tree does. The tree gives shelter, it gives fruits, it plants so many new seeds. And I think all of us have to go through that journey of going from seeds to trees. Most of us don't realize that we get consumed by fear instead of using fear. So fear becomes our being, in the sense that fear becomes what controls us. It tells us what we should do and what we shouldn't do. It tells us how we should think and we shouldn't think. It stops us from doing stuff that's really important to us, and it makes us do things that we would never ever do. It makes us say things to people that we love that we would never want to say to them. And on the other end, it stops you from saying things you really want to say to someone because you don't want to appear weak and your ego won't let you. So fear takes this really magnetic controlling effect on our whole lives. But fear at the same time can be one of the healthiest things because it's basically giving you a signal as to what's important. It's basically giving you as a signal as to how you feel. And when you use it as a signal, not as a suggestion or a push, it changes everything. So let's make that practical. When you are in your home and if the fire alarm goes off, that gives you a signal to say, check for the fire, check if there's a fire, right? Now, if you go, oh, just turn it off, it doesn't matter. So let's avoid my fear. Let's avoid it. Let's just turn it off. Let's forget about it. Your house could burn down. Or if you're lucky, there was nothing and it's fine. But the odds are that there could be a fire. Now, if you're someone who goes, well, let me inspect it. Let me be curious about that. I am scared that there's a fire in my house now that I've heard the fire alarm, but let me be curious. Let me inspect. Let me check. Imagine we approached our fear in that way. Imagine every time I felt scared of something, I said, well, let me get curious about this. Why am I scared of this? Why is it affecting me so much? What about this scares me? Is it all of it or is it just a part of it? When you start doing it, you start to break that fear down, and that's the healthy way of looking at fear rather than the unhealthy way of saying, forget about it, keep it away from me, I don't want to go there. And so for me, I really feel that fear is what blocks us from these beautiful breakthroughs in life. And it has such a chokehold on us, like it has such a strong hold on us. And I think most of us are living our lives because we're scared of what someone will say, what someone will think, or what someone will do. And that feels like something that we're going to regret when we're at the end of our lives. That audience was amazing. Like, that was incredible. It was so much fun. I was, I had 3 hours of sleep. I had a sore throat this morning. You heard me, I was whispering. And then on top of that, it was my first time back. And I'm on such a high. Like, I'm such a high. My wife just messaged me and she said, how are you feeling? How are you doing? She knows I left early morning. And I was like, I'm just on a high. Like, I just always feel that way when I'm on stage, get to be with people, get off stage. Even the meet and greet was just, so many just beautiful humans. There was just so much beautiful energy. And I feel like what we were all starved of for the last 18 months was a feeling of love, because everyone felt so empty that they didn't know where to give and get love from. But I'll tell you right now that the people that I just met, they had a lot of love to give. And there were thousands of them, a couple of thousand people in there who had a lot of love to give. And it just shows me that no matter how hard it's been, everyone's got love. So I feel I haven't worked on my skill set for the last 18 months of being on stage. I feel like you should never stop working on your strengths. A good example is Cristiano Ronaldo. I mean, he's 36 years old, and for anyone who watches the Premier League, the guy is just phenomenal. If it comes to work ethic and refining your skill, like, my role model is Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't think anyone works harder than him. I don't think anyone tries to sacrifice everything else for the art as much as him. And so that's what inspires me, that, when you do what you love, you're not complacent about it. You don't take it for granted. You actually constantly try and get better at it. Then I realized that even though having the skills was one thing, but then having something you were passionate about to talk about, that's what changed my life. We're always trying to create the same past,
yes,
as opposed to a new future.
A new future.
And I find that what's really interesting about that, all the studies show that nostalgia makes us believe that the past was more phenomenal than it actually was. If you remember that party you went to at college, it's better in your memory than it actually was. If you actually could have gone back and remembered how you felt hungover and what you broke a bone or whatever happened, but now in your memory, it's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Right? So our memory also is slightly warped of the past.
No question.
It can make things feel much better or much worse sometimes.
No question.
But what's really coming out for me right now is this idea that it's something you said a couple of moments ago, and it sparked a thought for me. I remember the story that Vanessa Bryant told about Kobe Bryant after he passed away. I was fortunate enough to interview him around 3 months before his tragic passing. And she told this story, and she said that Kobe would play through every injury he would play through every pain. He would play through everything, even when the doctors and his coaches would say, stop playing. And she asked him, she said once, why he still plays, right? Again, going back to our curiosity, not assuming you know your partner. She asked him, why do you still play? And this is just her and him. There's no cameras, she's telling this story, but at the time it was just them two. He said it's because there's someone who's paid for a ticket today. They saved up, and this is the only time they're ever going to be able to come. Maybe maybe a dad's brought his kid, maybe someone's come to the game. They're a lifelong fan, and they came today, and today's the only day they're going to get to see me. And if I say I'm injured, they won't get to see me. So I'm going to play so that person,
that one person,
gets to see me play, and then he goes and wins.
Yes.
And it's like, that's love. Actually, learning can be something that gives you a sense of achievement, sense of drive, sense of momentum, and a feeling like you're moving forward and towards something. When you dabble in articles, books, podcasts, you start to feel this sense of being alive. You have something to share in every conversation. You have something to add. You are more inclined to listen, to learn more, and see how your idea develops. Confidence comes from the ability to engage in a conversation and the feeling that you're moving forward, the feeling that you don't feel stuck or trapped in a space. Learning and consistently learning can truly transform the way you feel about yourself. You start to trust yourself. You think to yourself, wow, I remember this from what I read last week. I was able to apply that idea at work today. When you start to connect the dots around what you're learning and what you're growing in, that makes you feel a sense of confidence. I like to set myself up by saying, what are the habits that I can practice today that are going to make me feel like my day is going in the right direction? And they are truly simple. Thankfulness takes 30 seconds. Here's the best way to practice it. I don't recommend a gratitude journal. I don't recommend writing it down. I recommend expressing it, making it specific, and personalizing it. If you do that, gratitude actually has the ability to boost your immune system. It has the ability to shift your perspective and boost your mood. But if you do it in a way of, I'm grateful for the air, I'm grateful for my kids, I'm grateful for my job, that doesn't have that impact and effect.
Because it stays with you.
Because it stays within you, and gratitude is meant to be shared. It's a gift that you get to give someone else. We either put up a facade of confidence, or we hide our insecurities, or we try and find a way to disguise the anxiety that we feel about ourselves in order to cope with the world outside of us. And I think for me, I did that for many, many years. And when I started to feel like I wanted to walk this path, the fear and doubt that came in was fear of failure. There was a doubt around if I had the skills or the ability. And just overall, I think my vision had shrunk. And you're so right. If someone asked me in my teens if this would have been possible, I would have said yes. But if someone asked me in my 20s, I would have said no. And so it's really interesting to see that stark comparison. If you asked me as a 15-year-old if anything could be possible, I would have been much more broad-minded. And at 24, I'd become much more small-minded, because you start thinking as to what's real and what's possible. And you start also looking at the people around you and going, well, where have they got to? And then you start kind of, creating a little hierarchy.
Yeah.
What we say was the word.
The comparison.
The comparison of where I am.
Am I right in saying then over those next few years, you're kind of leading this almost dual life where you're kind of deeply pulled into this world of kind of ancient spirituality and philosophy and religion, and this totally different way of looking at the world and totally different expectations and definitions of happiness and success, but then also doing university and doing internship at a bank, is that right?
Yeah. So I was interning at financial companies in London in my summer, and then I'd either spend the rest of the summer or the Christmas holidays back in the ashram. So I would literally go from wearing suits, going to bars, eating at steakhouses, doing the corporate networking thing, trying to make sure I land a job after I graduate, and then shifting to sleeping on the floor, wearing robes, waking up at 4 a.m. and meditating all day. And I've always described that as like my first A/B test or split test, right? Like that everyone does now. And that split test just led me to I felt fulfilled every time I came back from the monastery. I was just like, I just had this amazing experience. I'd have so many stories to tell. I'd have so many interesting things that happened to me. And when I was in the work world, I was just trying to impress the person at the top. I was doing whatever it took to make sure that I stood out. I was, there was always a bit of like uncertainty because you don't know whether the people there are competing with you or they're your colleagues. Like, it's this awkward environment. And I didn't feel fulfilled. And so for me, it was a very natural process of elimination of going, well, how do I feel? And I think that's one of the reasons why I recommend that everyone experiments so much. And you don't have to go and spend a couple of weeks in an ashram in India, but if you can experiment on a potential passion over the weekend, or a potential hobby over a 3-day retreat, or something that you find interesting over an online course, like there are just so many resources out there that help you experiment without much cost, not just financially, but in time and energy. And when you do that, you get the sense of whether something works or not. So if I'd never worked in a financial company, I would never have known whether that was good or bad. And if I'd never gone to the monastery, I would never have known. I can only think so much in my head. And I think so much of us today, we're trying to figure things out in our mind. Like we think, oh yeah, I can just mentally figure out what my passion is or what I should do or how I should live my life. And I actually don't think you can, because you only know through the lived experience.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome.
For 10 more amazing rules from Guru Gopal Das, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Mark Twain said something very beautiful. He said, there are two most important days in our lives. First is the day when we were born, and second is the day when we find out why. The day we are born is known to us. The day when we find out why is the day when we probably start